Hello viewers and welcome to my new video. In today's video I'm going to be talking about a recent development from Spotify which actually might impact us independent artists. So this is quite concerning actually, and I will take you through the two articles that have been written about this, and you can sort of work out for yourself what you think. But effectively this is about the change of royalties and how royalties are going to be distributed by Spotify from Q1 in 2024. So effectively that means from the beginning of the year 2024. Okay, so the first article I'm going to specifically look at is by Colin Stutz, who is writing for Billboard. So let's see what Billboard have to say about this. Okay, so Spotify is changing how it pays artists. The company is planning changes to its royalty model for 2024 that will disqualify some tracks from payments and increase penalties for fraud. Spotify is planning to implement changes to its streaming royalty model in early 2024 that would affect the lowest streaming acts, non-music noise tracks, and distributors and labels committing fraud. Now, this is the important part of it, because this just shows you that Spotify market isn't really just like a, fair and equitable marketplace and market share, if you like, because the big players, the big music companies, the big record companies effectively have direct deals with Spotify that inform how much they actually get paid and how much money they can distribute to their artists, So, this isn't a sort of level playing field. And just to add to that, obviously, there's obviously other ways that some people might be using, like for example, paid playlists. So people, some artists, end up paying to be actually featured on playlists and things like that. And this move actually might exacerbate this even further. Conversations have been going on for weeks with the major record labels, Universal Music Group, Sony Music Entertainment, and Warner Music Group, as well as independent labels and distributors, sources say, while the new royalty system will keep its existing pro rata model. It introduces new floors that will grow the pool for more established artists and right holders. So what the actual changes are, I'm going to actually compare and read out from another article, because I think they sort of itemize them a lot better, or in a lot more detail, if you like. All right. So this is by Music Business Worldwide, this particular article, and this is Tim Ingham. So there's three specific changes that they itemize here, and this is what Spotify are going to introduce. So change number one is introducing a threshold of minimum annual streams before a track starts generating royalties on Spotify, in a move expected to demonetize a portion of tracks that previously absorbed 0.5% of the service's royalty pool. So effectively what they're saying is that all these small tracks that, maybe some independent artists might be uploading onto Spotify through the music distributor, cumulatively they came to they absorbed, if you like, 0.5% of the total royalty revenue pool on Spotify, okay? And this is going to be the most important issue for this video and for us independent artists, but I'm going to read you the other two just so you know what they are as well. So now the change number two is that Spotify is going to financially penalize distributors of music, labels included, when fraudulent activity is detected on tracks that they've uploaded to Spotify. And change number three is that Spotify are going to introduce a minimum length of playtime that each non-music, in inverted commas, noise track must reach in order to generate royalties. Now in Billboard's article it says that the specific benchmarks of these changes and how financial penalties will be calculated or implemented are currently unclear. So the music business worldwide are sort of saying the same thing. However, they are giving us a little bit of a more information here. So what they're saying is our sources weren't willing to specify the exact number of streams that will inform this threshold, but we were told by one source involved in recent talks that the move is designed to demonetize a population of tracks that today, on average, earn less than 5 cents per month, right? So effectively, if you upload a track as a music, independent music artist, and your track is going to generate less than 5 cents a month, that's it. What that means is that Spotify will basically not pay, they won't pay you, So, just make your own mind up what you think about it. But, I think, unfortunately, this is just a sign of something that, I personally think it's especially when it comes to potentially harming independent artists. Obviously, that is a very concerning move. And I also have another thought of this, which is that, the music industry, the whole music industry has been going in a certain direction for quite a while. And, a lot of people say these days that it's easier than it ever has been to break it through as an independent artist, because in the past, things were all owned by big record companies. So, for example, if you wanted to record an album, you couldn't just because it was so expensive, to go in a studio and pay for that studio time. Only the big corporations, the big record companies were able to afford that, so that they would, only the artists who were basically under their wings, and so the ones who signed a record deal with them would be able to do that and go, and then that record would be released. Obviously, these days, anybody, or most people, if you have a little bit of money and you can afford some basic equipment, you can record songs and EPs, albums, singles, whatever you want to do, practically in your own bedroom, or maybe at a small expense, or maybe you can even pay for some studio time, and it's not going to be extremely expensive, so especially if you're in a band, and you can all chip in together towards that. A lot of people have been saying that this is a very good thing, because people are allowed these days, or able to release their own music without having that record deal with a record company. But in my view, this move here, it's almost an attack on that situation, on that status quo, because what this effectively means is that, and I'm going to read some more about this, but it effectively means that what Spotify is going to do, it's going to redistribute those small micro royalties to the big players, to the big record companies, effectively, because what they're going to say is, well, all this money here, and a track that doesn't make a certain amount of streams per month or per year, and whatever, or isn't listened for as long as whatever, right? We're not gonna pay them. So effectively, you've made all the effort, you've made all the work as an artist, you've maybe poured your blood, sweat, and tears, and just because you are still growing, maybe you are still starting out, maybe you don't have as many fans, so it's going to, I think, harm the smallest artists, really, because they're not gonna get anything. And even if it's just a small amount, so what? Maybe that small amount helps you towards something else. Maybe you will play gigs, maybe you will have some other revenue streams or whatever, in order to propel you in your music career, or your music journey, or whatever you might be doing. So what it says here is that each play on Spotify in the US, in terms of recorded music royalties, currently generates somewhere around $0.003 per month, and this would suggest that for these tracks to generate $0.05 per month in royalties, they would need to generate 17 plays a month, or around 200 plays a year. However, this is not a confirmed information, so this is just an assumption at the moment, so we don't actually know how many streams that's going to be. Spotify says tracks that currently represent 99.5% of stream share will continue to monetize after these changes. So why is Spotify specifically targeting a relatively tiny proportion of tracks on its service that are very low popularity and very low revenue generating, because when you're talking about an industry where 100,000 tracks or more are being uploaded to streaming platforms daily, the amount of money being paid out to these tracks cumulatively results in a substantial sum. But so what, right? Because again, it doesn't really matter. It's like this giant, all these big companies, these big corporations are massive giants. So they effectively say, well, just because you earn only like, I don't know, $5, $10 or whatever, we're not gonna pay that. Instead, what we're gonna do is pull all that money back, because it's a big thing, because if you have 100,000 tracks being uploaded, each generates this like little tiny amount. Well, we're gonna pull all that together and redistribute this to the big players, right? So this is what they say. In aggregate, the tracks Spotify is targeting here generate royalties that add up to tens of millions of dollars a year. And that number is only growing. So next year, without taking this action, Spotify thinks they would have generated around 40 million. So $40 million is going to be generated according to this projection by Spotify, by all these small or sort of tracks that are not streamed as much as maybe some other tracks. 40 million, but it's like for an individual independent artist, that whatever they get out of that pool of money might be important, or just to feel that you are somewhat rewarded by your work. And if you are a songwriter, if you publish your own music, if you perform on your tracks or whatever, you make a record, you publish it, you put it out there, you want to be able to claim royalties for that, right? So under the new plans, that 40 million will go back into Spotify's stream share royalty pot and be redistributed amongst the tracks that are, well, more popular. This targets those royalty payouts whose value is being destroyed by being turned into fractional payments, pennies or nickels, said one source close to discussions. Often, these micropayments aren't even reaching human beings. Aggregators frequently require a minimum level of paid out streaming royalties before they allow indie artists to withdraw the money. Yes, that is true. But again, if you go above that threshold, you want to get something, right? We're talking about tracks whose royalties aren't hitting those minimum levels, leaving the Spotify royalty payout sitting idle in bank accounts. So, is this in a way a move that is going to harm music distributors actually as well? Because let's think about this. If what they're saying is they're not gonna pay because that money. So, for example, like when I was in Ditto Music previously, I think the threshold was like £25 a year before I could withdraw any money. I think it's different now. It was definitely different from DistroKid, just so you know. I think it was more like $5 or something like that, which was really handy. But so for example, say that DistroKid example. So after $5, I can take some money out, right? But what they're saying is, if you don't reach the amount, they're not gonna pay out. What that is going to do actually is it's going to harm these music distributors, because if you're not gonna be able to generate above that $5 of a payout, then also they're gonna be harmed by this, I suspect. And this is what it says here: fair warning, DIY distributors who rather like all of that money sitting idle in the bank accounts, especially when they can collect the interest on it, might not adore Spotify's plan here. Well, of course they won't. This is going to I think they're gonna feel the impact of this actually. Going back to Billboard's article, so what they say here is the standard existing pro rata streaming model has been a major topic of consideration this year, ever since Universal Music Group CEO Lucian Grange called for an updated model. So you see, so this is all coming from these big record companies effectively, for the business that will be an innovative, artist-centric model that values all subscribers and rewards the music they love, in his annual New Year's letter to staff. However, let's just consider this for a sec. Yes, this is the music that people love, because they get also exposed to this. Because think about it that way. If I own a big record company, I have the budget to be able to promote all this music. If I have the budget also to be making deals directly with streaming platforms like Spotify, I effectively can influence what's going on. I can, I don't know, pay for advertisement. I can promote these songs in so many different ways that, of course, the people will get to hear the songs. So from that perspective, they have a lot more leverage in order to reach people, right? Then, for example, someone like myself or other independent artists, So yes, this is the music that people love, but people do not get exposed equally to all music that is out there, right? Because if that was a level playing field and people had this opportunity, okay, I'm gonna compare this track, that track, that track, and that track, and then I choose this one because I like this one the most, not because it's advertised the most, not because it's kind of like, pushed down my throat all the time, but it's because I actually choose it because I love the music, right? So there's always this argument to be made as well. Also, what's important here is the following: UMG, Universal Music Group, announced partnerships with Tidal, Deezer, and SoundCloud to explore alternative models, and report surfaced that similar conversations were underway with the other leading streaming platforms. So this is not just Spotify. This sounds to me like quite a big significant change that they basically are trying to implement across all this kind of streaming and all these kind of music platforms market. In July, during UMG's second quarter earnings call, Grange announced a newly expanded agreement with Spotify, under which he said they have committed to continue to work to address what he outlined as key components to the artist-centric approach, fairly rewarding real artists with real fan bases for the platform engagement they drive. So again, yes, real artists with real fan bases, but we've paid for all this advertisement promotion. And by the way, I'm not sort of hating on it or anything like that, because it's fine, if I have the means to promote, and by all means I will do that. And of course, this is what I do, and I also use this very channel with my own means of being able to share my music with people, to reach more people and to build my own fan base. But what I'm saying is, for the people who are only starting out and don't have that backing and don't have that budget and don't have that sort of big record company behind them, they should be able, at least in my view, to be able to go in there, to release their music, to actually claim some royalties out of that and not be stripped out of those royalties. Applying stricter fraud detection and enforcement systems and ensuring real artists don't have their royalties diluted by noise, and better aligning the relationship between artists and fans by promoting greater discovery and promotion of real artists. 2 of 3 of these priorities are now being pursued by Spotify. In September, UMG and Deezer outlined a new model for what they called artist-centric streaming. That model was similar, albeit more severe, than what Spotify is planning. It included royalty boosts for professional artists whose music streamed above a threshold, while promising to crack down on fraud and replace non-artist noise content with its own functional music that would be excluded from the royalty pool. Unlike Spotify, which relies heavily on industry-leading algorithm, recommended playlists and autoplay, lean back listening, Deezer's plan also demoted passive listening royalties by boosting artists who are actively searched for by users. So unlike Deezer, Spotify is planning to roll this out with all major labels and leading independent labels and distributors. So this is really, really interesting because, whilst I agree with that fraudulent activity, that definitely should be targeted and penalized, because again, if someone's just uploading anything just to get sort of, royalty payments, and it's like a meaningless thing, and maybe they use AI, or whatever, or bots to stream that music and over, 24/7, That's obviously not right, okay? But this is very different, you know. I think where the smallest artists come into play, again, my view would be not to harm them, you know. But again, I will be really interested to hear your comments and what you have to say under this video. Spotify will need new agreements to the royalty structure changes with most record labels and the distributors to implement the plan, but that doesn't mean entirely new licensing renewals. Changes can be made specifically for these elements, sources say, and since the major labels, which all negotiated deal renewals with Spotify on different timelines, are likely to benefit from the new terms, they are likely to sign on to them. Of course they are. Of course they are. I'm just going to finish on reading the last few paragraphs from the Music Business Worldwide here. As mentioned, sources tell MBW that Spotify is informing leading players in the record industry of its hope that its new three-pronged strategy can result in 1 billion in royalties shifting away from fraudsters, microtransactions and those gaming spots royalty model and towards real working artists over the next 5 years. It's important to underline that, as with Deezer's artist-centric plans, Spotify's soon-to-be adjusted model won't in and of itself alter the size of the total royalty pool being paid out to creators and rights holders. Instead, it will alter the allocation of money being paid out to each of those rights holders, specifically by reducing the money going to very unpopular music, as well as the money going to streaming fraudsters and other parties deliberately gaming the platform. So, what does the world's biggest music rights holders and distributors think of Spotify's plans? And this is the perspective of Music Business Worldwide here. From the conversations MBW has had so far, there is no way everyone can be 100% aligned on this matter, but the sense we got from one source was that significant right holders view Spotify's Q1 2024 proposal as common sense steps in the right direction. When contacted by MBW for comment on this report, a Spotify spokesperson replied, "We're always evaluating how we can best serve artists and regularly discuss with partners ways to further platform integrity. We do not have any news to share at this time." And this brings me to the end of my video. As I said, this at this moment in time, this is a proposal, but this obviously talks are sort of happening right now with all these key stakeholders. We need to just wait and see what it's going to look like. And of course, there's some questions still unanswered, especially about how many streams is a song going to require in order to be eligible for royalties. And we just need to sort of see and wait and see what that's going to be. And of course, I'm going to be watching that, following that closely, and as soon as I get an update or there is an update available on that, I'm going to make another video to update you all as well. And yes, please let me know in the comments what you think about this proposal and whether you agree, disagree with it, any other thoughts you may have. And thank you very much for watching today's video, and I will see you in my next video.